What's up, my loves and fellow creatives? As promised, I'm going to show you how to do a few things with the graduation template. The thing that I saw that was most concerning or that you had the most concerns about were doing the caps. So I wanted to go ahead and give you a disclaimer because I don't want you to think that you have to press these caps. Most of the time, the cap toppers that are done by companies or by outside parties, they're just cardstock that's printed or cardstock that someone has hand decorated. So when you think in terms of sublimation, I want you to think anything that you do that involves sublimation will be an upgrade to that process more than likely. So I'm going to show you some of those upgraded processes we can do today. And I'm going to demonstrate the differences in the processes here. This is a satin fabric, and I'm going to show you down here on my table what I have going on. So this satin fabric is your basic costume satin, and as a matter of fact, I think this was maybe $2 or $3 from Walmart, 2 yards of costume satin, 72 by 60 inch, and this is the fabric here. The second option we're going to look at doing today is sublimating on glitter. And then the third option is something called Subliflock. And what Subliflock is, it is a flocking product that is a heat transfer vinyl. However, the surface of it, instead of having the backing or the carrier sheet on the top of the product, you have the carrier sheet on the bottom of the product, which means you can sublimate on top of this. So I will demonstrate that today too. This one has already been cut out on the plotter, and you may have a Cricut, you may have a Silhouette, whatever you're using should be able to cut these. This particular hat happens to be 9 inches by 9 inches, but typically when people sell the toppers, they sell them 9.5 by 9.5. Then that way, in case the cap is a little bit bigger, it can be trimmed. Now this was just an inexpensive one that I purchased off of Amazon just to do as a demonstration. Most times you're going to have your customers have their own caps that they have to order mandatory from a certain company so that everyone that's graduating has the same exact regalia. So in this case, you would not necessarily be applying all of these directly to the surface. Usually you would give your customers that type of direction. Hey, you're going to want to, most of them glue this stuff on, hot glue, a Gorilla Glue, even I've seen people do Elmer's glue and just let it sit. So in that case, I'm going to take a little pressure off of you because that is probably the biggest thing. People want to actually sublimate the top of these, and it's not necessary, especially given that you would have to have white ones, and ordering things right now, especially with the pandemic, is very, very, very difficult at this time. So keep it to things that you have available. If you can't find fabric, fabric is sometimes hard to find. You probably can order your vinyls, and push come to shove, do the cardstock. You can always print the same exact designs on cardstock, cut it 9 inches, or you might want to go with the 9.5 inches and then put a circle in the middle. The circle in the middle is about 0.75. And what I'll do is I'll demonstrate that with my glitter. I'll take it over to the plotter and we'll cut it out. 9 inches will be exactly on point for this one. And I think my satin is 9.5 inches, so you'll get to see what the overhang, what that one looks like. So let's see, where are we gonna start? We're gonna start with the sublimation process. So let me come back over here and hopefully you can see this press that's heating up my back right now. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that you all can see what's going on. First, this is the glitter. It's still on the carrier sheet. I just kind of pre-cut it to about maybe 10 or 11 inches by 11 inches. And then I have my sublimation prints. And the previous video showed you how you're gonna print this one out. This is a 10 by 10. And let's just go ahead and trim it. So I'm gonna take you back to the table. Sorry y'all, I'm sitting here trying to make a studio out of this kitchen. All right, so let's go ahead and trim it. And you're doing this, you don't have to be exact because you have a little bleed area, but you're doing this so that you know on your fabric where your 10-inch space is. So So I am being neat, but I'm not being precise. How about that? I'm gonna cut all the way around. So I'm gonna get rid of these scraps. All right, so this is what our 10 by 10 looks like. Now, in order for us to sublimate on this glitter, it has the carrier sheet on top of it, right? So what I've done before is I adhered this to a piece of cardstock. Right now I'm going to just adhere it to the butcher paper, just because I don't want to waste up any more cardstock, but it'll be the same exact idea. So let me take you over here to the press. All right. So what we're gonna do at the press here is I have a sheet of cover paper that's already down. I'm just gonna use that because I just need something to tack this onto, because basically whatever this surface is what's gonna be adhered to the hat. And you can give suggestions. Forgot, y'all can't even see me talking. I'm just over here. Okay, maybe you can see me now. Okay. So you can use suggestions such as Super 77, which is one of the adhesives that I use for things. Hot glue is going to pretty much attach any two things. So you can use suggestions for that, but that's usually up to the user how they adhere to their hat. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to tack this down to the paper right now. And let's say I'm going to give it about 10 seconds. Pretty good. I'll say medium pressure, just because I want it to adhere to the paper more than it sticks to the carrier, so I can remove the carrier and then sublimate the glitter. Alright, this will be hot, so be careful. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead, let it semi-cool a little bit. Well, I'm not, but you should. I don't want y'all coming to me saying I taught y'all to do something burnt up. But be very careful. Some of you may want to save these carrier sheets to pick up things later on. All right, so that is my glitter, and it is attached to the butcher paper right now. So it has a nice good paper backing, and then I will take my sublimation image here, which is on sublimation paper. Of course, it's printed in reverse because we're going to press it onto fabric, or in this case, the vinyl. You also might be able to find the cardstock like this right about now, the 12-inch by 12-inch glitter cardstock. I believe that is also sublimatable. That would be perfect. You would skip the step of having to adhere the vinyl to the paper, and that would be a pretty cool step. However, I don't have any of that, and the local stores pretty much have nothing right about now. And this is a scrap that I had laying around, so it's a little short, but it's gonna work for what I need it to do. And I'll grab another sheet of cover paper here. Let's cover the graphic. Give it a good press for 60 seconds. And I'm at 400 degrees. You're not even supposed to do a full 400 degrees. I think most of the time for the glitter vinyl, they recommend doing like 385 and doing maybe 35 to 45 seconds instead of 60 seconds. I just went ahead and did it the full cycle so you would see what it looks like at 400. And we'll see it in just a moment. 400 and oops, got to start my timer. So we'll give it probably 45 seconds. I was probably chatting for about a good 15 seconds. And in the meantime, I want to tell you that is exactly the process you do for the flocking. So this is the flocking. Usually when I offer any type of printed material that I'm not doing on white, I'll offer a glitter option or a no glitter option. So they don't really know it's flocking, or because it's hard to explain to somebody that it feels like suede, but it's not suede, and you know, you get the same effect. Just go with the glitter or the no glitter, and people that don't want glitter will know that they don't want glitter. And that way you'll be giving them an alternative if you're not going to be printing on paper or satin fabric. So satin fabric is pretty much, you can do it for the guys and the ladies, and you're not going to have anyone dissatisfied thinking that it's not for them. So this is a satin fabric, and I think we went for 1:15 because I was talking. Turn that off and see what we get. Look at these pots. Let me show you. So we're adhered to paper here. That's the glitter. And my apologies for the lighting, but I think you can tell. You can see that the glitz and glamour in there. So pretty much you can take this to the plotter or to your cutter and cut it down to 9 inches with a 0.75 diameter circle in the middle of that 9-inch square, and that will fit perfectly on this hat. But if you're sending it off to someone else who's going to adhere to their hat and you can't measure the hat, then go ahead and send them a 9.5 inch 9.5 by 9.5 inch square. That way they can trim it down if they need to. Okay, so that was that process. I did the same thing for the flocking, and I have a little sample piece of flock here. Don't know if you'll be able to see the texture too much. Let's get you in there. Can y'all see that? Try to get a little bit of lighting. So it almost has a suede appearance to it. And it comes with a backing on there. If I were to give this to a customer, I would give it to them with the backing attached to it, because they can literally glue it onto the surface with the backing attached. Or I'll show you another process where we'll peel the backing off, and you can use a hand iron to iron it onto the cap if you wanted to do a heat process. Now with the glitter, you're not able to do that because you adhered it to the paper, so it's bonded to the paper now. So you would have to do something else, like use a heat adhesive, or even I mean, literally the Super 77 will probably do for you. And you don't know what Super 77 is? This stuff right here. It's amazing. We're going to test it out today because I haven't tested it on the cap. So I'm going to test the Super 77 on the cap. And then I'll also do the suede, or the faux suede, the Sublimation. I'll try that and iron it onto this. But most people are doing the paper and attaching it like literally, what is it, scrapbooking paper. So if you can get glitter scrapbooking paper that you can sublimate, that would probably be prime. Your process will be cut down in half from all of the stuff that I'm showing you here. But if you have to work with what you have right now, especially with the given circumstances, then this is what we'll do. Okay, so flocking, glitter, and the satin is done. So I'm done with the heat press for right now. I'm going to show you what we're going to do on this table. Hopefully we have everything that we need. Let me go ahead. I'm going to leave the heat press on because we are going to do the graduation stoles after this. So I'm going to set this aside, the glitter piece aside, because we're going to take it to the plotter, and we'll cut the square out of this and cut the circle in the center, and it will look just like this piece of flocking here. So I'm going to show you. I'm taking it off the backing. I already pre-cut it. You see that? And it is flexible once you get it off of the backing. And once we lay it onto the cap, we just let the hole peek through. And this is, like I said, a very inexpensive cap. I actually had to peel it off because it was hot glued, and it wasn't in the center of the hat. It was in a weird location. So this is what it looks like with the 3/4 inch circle cut out the center and a 9 by 9. It pretty much meets right at the edge here. And you may want to do yours in the shape of a diamond. You're designing a diamond instead of the square, because if you do it in a diamond, then let's say if I wanted my text to go that way, as far as that's the front of the hat, that's the back of the cap, and most people want you, when they're walking, they want you to be able to see the back of their cap. So you could also design this in a diamond, and that's available in the template too. It has a diamond or a square. All right, so we're gonna keep this square because we're gonna keep this tutorial friendly. That's one setup. And this is the one where we can actually iron this onto the cap because it has that adhesive on the back. So that's one. And then I'll put this back on the backing for right now. So we have that one to demonstrate. And then let's see the satin one. So I don't have any cardstock. I'm waiting on some that's bigger. The cardstock I have right now is 8.5. So I got creative and used an envelope. Do not tell USPS. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm simulating here how you would cut your cardstock. This one's cut 9.5 by 9.5 is a square, and then it's got a 3/4 inch circle in the middle. And what I do when I'm working with this satin, whether I'm doing cheer bows or I'm doing something like this, I don't like to sew unnecessarily, and I don't like to have frayed edges on this type of fabric like the ribbons and the satin fabric here. So what I typically do is I would get a tool. You can use a soldering iron, I forget how people say it, but there's also a wood burning tool, which is pretty much the same thing. It just has some additional tips there. And I use this in order to pretty much melt those edges, and it melts the polyester really, really well. So pretty much any satin that you see like this is going to be polyester. Those satin ribbons, the grow ring ribbons, I use that tool, that burner tool, in order to burn those edges. And it's also because I'm afraid of a lighter. Some people use a lighter and go down with the lighter along the edge, and that ain't me, you know. So I stick with my dangerous tools versus the other dangerous tools. All right, and then I just have a piece of glass here because when I'm using that wood burning tool, I have to have something that it won't melt through. And so I have a piece of glass here, a really thick piece of glass, but you may have like a nice cutting board or something thick that you can use that doesn't hold the heat, because you can also use metal, but if it holds the heat and you rest your hand on it, you risk burning yourself. So this one we're going to do the Super 77, and we're going to attach the fabric to this cardstock with the Super 77, and then we're going to use the burning tool to clean up those edges. So that's what we're about to do right now. And let's see, let me see if I can show y'all my box. Get Mr. Hot Heat Press out the way. So I'll show you when you're working with the Super 77. All right, so let's grab the box. And what else do we need? We need our spray. The reason why I use the box, and I usually even put flaps up because I want to spray inside of the box. So I kind of want to demonstrate what I'm doing. So y'all can see that. Cool beans. And let me find something. Yeah, you can see it when I lay it down. Okay, cool. So we're going to use the Super 77. And with Super 77, you're going to get your best tack whenever you spray both surfaces. And then you don't immediately put them together while it's wet. You give it like a little bit of time to let the air hit it. And then from there, you tack them together. So let's see, we're going to do satin and the cardboard. All right, can you see me here? I have it down in there. And I'm going to spray the cardboard first because it's rigid. So when I move it out of the way, I don't risk anything happening with it. And since I've already sublimated my fabric, pretty much you're going to do the same thing like I just showed you how we sublimated the glitter. You're going to cut out a little bit bigger piece than what you need, sublimate right on the fabric, 60 seconds, 400 degrees, and you're good to go. All right, I just want to make sure I have some place to put this down once I tack it. All right. Shake her up. And I place it down, and I have some paper down there too. So I'm gonna spray. Well, looks like somebody's already used this. And clean this nozzle off. If your spray is spraying weird, there it goes. I'm gonna have to clean the nozzle off. Okay. It is tacky. Next piece is the satin. Now this one, if it touches something, it does have the propensity to kind of tack to itself and also to wrinkle up, fold up, and touch something. It doesn't need to be touching. And I should have, once I sprayed once, I should have put down a new piece of paper down there just to make sure we weren't going to have any issues with that. So let's move that out the way. Now I'm going to place my fabric face down on top of this glass. And I use a glass because it's easy to clean too, just in case you get any residue on it. You want to be careful not to stretch out. And let me pull you down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing down here. Now I go ahead and sit down now. And make sure you can see what's going on. Okay. So we want to make sure that we don't stretch the fabric out because this costume satin is very easy to warp. So what I'm doing right now, I'm taking my pre-cut, and I actually should be sticking the brown side to the fabric. And I'm making sure I have about the same amount of space all the way around. And if you have one, which I do, but I'm not going to assume that everybody has one. If you have like a vinyl squeegee that you use to kind of get wrinkles out of your vinyl when you lay it, you can use that to make sure you have a good even tack. I'm just using these fingers here, and I'm trying not to shift the fabric too much because you'll see your image will look like it's starting to wave around it. Okay, so that is it adhered to the cardboard or cardstock. Now you have a couple options here. If you don't have the wood burning tool, you can take your fabric and fold it over. The problem with that though is if you're going to do it that way, and I'll demonstrate that because we have enough glue on here to do that. What you have to do is when you get to your corners, you have to make sure, so I folded one side down, get to this corner, I'm gonna fold the adjacent corner in, and then you have to trim this inner fold just a little bit so that it doesn't add too much bulk right there, because otherwise it will not sit flat on as a topper. So maybe what I'll do is I'll heat singe two sides of it, and then I'll fold and set two sides of it. So you'll see the difference there. And I'm just gonna grab some scissors here, leaving a little bit towards the corner, just enough that I can tack down. And of course, if you're gonna be doing this method, I did intend on showing you this method, but if you're gonna be doing this method, you wanna make sure that your edges are cut really neat, okay? Because you don't want people to turn it over and see a mess, even though they're not gonna be seeing that part when it's on the cap. Okay, other one, I'm pulling it taut, making sure that I have good contact. And this one, I'm gonna trim. I have a little too much fabric here. I'm gonna trim some of this off. Okay, so two sides have been put down, and you cut this on your plotter, so this should be cut really, really even. The only thing that won't be even is if you didn't fold your fabric over the edge even. So you see there's a smooth edge. Folded fabric that's tacked down to the back of the board. Okay, now I'm going to show you my process for using the burner or the soldering iron if you have one of those. I'm sure something in your local hardware store will be able to work for that. So even if you can't find this wood burning kit, I think I got that one from Walmart for like 15-20 bucks. soldering iron you can get from Harbor Freight, maybe like $8, $9. So I already have it heated up. And let's go ahead and see if I can get to it without burning anything down. Now what I don't like about them is they have, let's see, move that out of the way. You have enough cord here. I actually have this attached to an extension cord because I don't want anything to happen to where this thing pulls and falls in my lap or anything of the likes, okay? So this is the wood burning tool here. You can see it now. All right, so this top is hot. And let me demonstrate just on a little edge here. You can see, once I touch it, it's melting away the vinyl wherever I'm touching. So what it does is it locks in that edge there so that you don't see those fibers fraying at all. Okay, so what I do is take my metal ruler. You don't want a plastic ruler. You want a metal ruler. And I'm going to line it up with the edge of my cardboard here. And I can use the cardboard as a guide rather than the ruler, but just in case this thing is too hot and it might damage the edge of the cardboard, I'm protecting it with my ruler here. All right. And like I said, the thing that I don't like about this, and I don't know, this is just a very poor design. I've seen some that don't have the temperature control right up here on the upper part of the tool. It makes it kind of difficult for you to handle this without this control in the way. So if you can find one where the control is further down the cord where it won't be in your way, that would definitely be my preference. But in this case, I mean, we have what we have, so we're gonna work with it. I'm just making sure that I'm covering my cardboard, a consistent thickness all the way down is what we want. So when I place the tool, just testing it now. I might have a little too hot. I'm just gonna run it down. And I can peel that right up, right off. Let's move this hat, so just in case this thing doesn't touch it and burn it. Because I don't like this temperature control. See how this temperature control almost falls off the table? Let me give myself a little more slack here. I can't be burning myself on the YouTube. Come on, little handle, act right. There we go. Y'all see the dangers. All right, so now I have that cleanly cut. And let me see if I can get up a little bit closer to show you that. The folded edge versus the trimmed edge. There's no additional thickness there. It's all uniform. It is cleanly cut off. And if you make chair bows, you want one of these, okay? You definitely want one of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other edge. That's trash, and that's scrap. Here's my box. All right, same thing. I set up my ruler. Sure we're good there. Take my tool. And I'm making sure also that my fingers are nowhere near this hot tool. And although this is a metal, ruler, it's not transferring the heat to me. Pick that up. done with this, I'm gonna set it back over here because obviously this is where it wants to be. I'm gonna put it back onto the countertop where nobody can tug on it. Alright, so, oh, you know what? We need it again because there's still a hole that we have to cut out. And the wood burning tool will work for that too, or the soldering iron will work for that too. So I'm going to just use the hole that exists here and I'm going to cut from the back. There was one more thing that I needed to do. Oh, let's grab our dangerous tool once again. And this is about the only way that I know how to cut this type of material where it's clean and neat. So now I'm just following the inside of the circle and I'm literally drawing with this tool. And I'm trying not to get too close to the cardboard because it will damage that cardboard a little bit. I'm going to pull it through this way so that any of my stray fibers end up coming to the inside of the circle, and all I have to do is rub my tool up against there, making sure I wasn't damaging the glass surface. There we go. And I come to the good side, and there we have it. Nice clean hole there. In the back side is what I use to gauge where that hole is. So yeah, I would choose, if you have a chance to do the wood burning tool, just do the wood burning tool all the way around. Don't worry about folding the edges. But if that's all you have, then that's what you do. The only thing about the inside of that circle, if you have to cut that by hand, you're gonna have some fraying. So that's up to you how you decide to do that. You can give it to the customer without the hole in the middle and let them decide if they're gonna take the button off. So they can remove this, place the topper on there and then put it on there. I would not suggest you do that because then you have a chance at damaging a product that you probably can't replace. So let's make it simple. Put the hole in the top. Nobody has to damage their graduation caps. And also, some people have restrictions on what you can do with the graduation ceremony. So I've even heard some people saying, hey, you're not going to get your diploma if you decorate your cap or anything like that. And of course the kid's going to do what they want to do anyway, but at least this offers them an opportunity to take it off if they come to the last minute and figure out that they can't do it. But this is what it looks like with the satin, and the satin fabric is going to match the finish of the stole exactly. So it's a satin fabric that's used for that too. So if you like the finish of the stole, this will have the same finish. All right, and then let's preview it with the squid. There it is with the suede. And it's not attached, I'm just holding it on there. Okay. And then finally the glitter, I'm gonna have to cut short to take the glitter over to the cutter, and then we'll cut it a 9-inch square with a 0.75-inch circle in the center. And then I'll show you that up against here too. And then I'll give you my recommendation for how to adhere it to the cap if that's something you have to do, or if you have to refer your clients to this video, you can if they need to know how they adhere their toppers to the tops of the graduation caps. I'll be back, loves. All right, guys, so for this next part, what I'm going to try to show you is that I'm going to put this paper that's adhered to the glitter vinyl that was sublimated onto a sticky mat and put it into my plotter. Hopefully all goes well, and we'll have one more substrate that we can add as a topper to the hat. So this is an oversized sheet here. I happen to have a 24-inch plotter, but because you're only cutting a 10 by 10, you should be able to cut these with your craft cutters. no need for industrial equipment. So let me go ahead and load up my Roland. And what I'll do, once I get this set up, I'll try to show you what it looks like on the screen. It is literally a 9-inch square with a 0.75 circle in the center. And I'm just lining up my thing here. I'm gonna go ahead and set it up as roll media so I don't have to guess where to put it in what size. So what I do, because I don't have registration marks, although this can read registration marks, it's just harder. So I know that I made this a 10-inch by 10-inch image. So what I'm doing is, and I did this the last time, I forgot to do it this time, but just marking a point 1/2 inch from the corner. So 1/2 inch from the corner here, and then 1/2 inch from the corner up. And then I would put like a little marker there just to let me know that that's going to be my origin point. Now I don't know how the craft cutters are set up, but I'm pretty sure there's a way that you can set your origin. So I'm just going to eyeball it. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Yep. And I think I'm good on to that. I'm going to set that as my origin. Move it over just a little bit. Because it's telling me now my media is going to be 9 inches. And I want to make sure I have enough room to trim this other side. Just in case it goes off track a little bit. Alright, so I'm going over here to the computer. Let me see. And I'll pick this up and show y'all. Yeah, you can see. So technically, this is just a square, 9 inches, with the circle in the middle. And then I used the alignment tool to make sure my circle was in the center, which is definitely more centered than the actual cap itself. That was fun. So let's go ahead and cut that. And I forgot to tell you, if it's not enough pressure, which this might not be enough pressure to have gone all the way through, then you can set the shape to cut twice. Let me see before I take this up. Cut through. Once I get cut through, so I'm gonna leave it down. And I'm gonna cut through twice. So now this is thicker than just your standard glitter because it has the backing on it. Your cutter, and this cutter is at maximum force right now. I think it's at 250. Might be time to change out the blade. But what I'm going to do for my art file is pretty much set it so that it cuts 2 of the squares and 2 of the circles, basically just duplicating what's already here. And we can go to edit, copy. And I'll put that to the middle there. And let's go ahead and cut that again. And it looks like it's only 1 line, but now it should cut 2. Alright. This time we did get it to cut through. My sticky mat is like extremely sticky because I use an adhesive, eco adhesive, and probably a little stickier than I need it to be. So let me try to do this on a table surface because doing this in the air right now is not gonna help me out. So we'll relocate the camera back to where the other table set up, and then I'll go ahead, weed this, take that little center point out, and then we'll have a whole nother substrate we can work with. But you see that glitter is pretty. All right, catch you in just a bit. All right, so I'm back. Went ahead and weeded the sheet. It was a little stuck onto my carrier sheet, but that's my fault because I sprayed it with a different type of adhesive. Your carrier sheet should not be that kind of sticky. But the back of it has the paper backing. Now this is just butcher paper, so it's very thin. That's why it's curling up. I would suggest you go ahead and put it on the cardstock. I just want to show you a different option. So this is what the cardstock would look like with the satin on. So I'm pretty sure it would give that same rigidity to this glitter, if not more, because it's a thicker material. So then it would lay flat. You probably have to ship it flat just like this if you're shipping to your customers, or if you're assembling it on site, then it shouldn't really matter because you'll be able to apply that as well. So this is an option to adhere to the paper because the paper can be glued to the top of the hats. This one is the suede or the Sublimation. I call it suede because that's what the customers understand. The customers do not know what flocking is, okay? So I call it suede and then they get it, all right? Or faux suede. So this is the one that we could adhere to the fabric by heat because it does have the thermal backing on there. So we're going to apply that one with heat. And this one I'm going to give to him as kind of like a keepsake just in case they're not able to do their own toppers. And then I'm going to give him the this one because he probably won't want the glitter one. His girlfriend is one of my babies too, so I'm sure she'll find something to do with that. But yeah, we'll use the satin one and I'll give him that as its own little topper that he can put on his grad cap when he's ready to do his ceremony. So I'm going to demonstrate how you could iron this on. Or if you were shipping this to your customer, this is how your customer would iron it on. You want some parchment paper. It's going to protect your image. Now I took my button off, and the reason why is because it was so misplaced. Like it was nowhere near the center. It didn't even have like a logical more near one side than the other. I don't get it. So I took it off. It was getting on my nerves, and the glue, if you can see where it was placed, that hot glue is just in a really bad place. So I removed it. But I'm going to assume that it's still there. That's why I still let the circle be cut out. All right, and if it was there, of course, you can't put this under the heat press. You have to hand iron it. So you want to make sure that you have good placement. You might even use a little bit of tape just to make sure it doesn't shift on you. But I'm going to take my chances. And let's move this out of the way. You can still see it. All right, so parchment paper. Cover our design. And keep in mind this was heated at 400 degrees, so it's not going to hurt it. And let me move this plastic ruler, or I'll just do it on top of the glass because it can't hurt the glass. So I'm going to hold with one hand, take the iron, and you don't want to shift the iron around. You want to just press with the iron. And I'm just tacking it right now. So I just did maybe 4 or 5 seconds just now. And all it did was just give it a very, very light tack. It's not in place yet. And as a matter of fact, I probably need to make sure I turn this temperature up. Oh, you know what? I think the iron may have gone off. Let me turn it back on. Yep. Have the auto shut off. So it helps you not burn the house down, but we gotta wait for that to heat back up. So while that's heating back up, let me show you how you would adhere this. And these are gonna be good instructions for my youngin, because he's going to get a chance to do this for himself. So the way that you're going to do this is you're going to spray both the back of the card with the Super 77, and then you would also spray the top of the hat. Now, if you want to make sure you're only getting the top of the hat, I would suggest you take everything else, ball it underneath, and use newspaper, protective paper, something of the sort behind it, so that when you're spraying on top, and you can even cover the button if you want to take a little bit of a paper towel or something and just cover that button, you absolutely can, so that you don't have any stickiness on the button. But you're going to spray the top of the hat with the Super 77, good little spray about 6 to 8 inches away from it. I would even do 2 coats, and then you'll spray the back of your topper, same thing, 1 light coat. Come back with another light coat 6 to 8 inches away. You'll give it like a few seconds, maybe like 15-20 seconds. Don't immediately put it down while they're both still wet, because it won't give you proper adhesion. So if you give it about 15 to 20 seconds between letting the surfaces touch, you get a really good tack. And once you set it down, my suggestion is going to be to take your topper, place it face down, and of course, make sure you understand the orientation, however you want your cap to go. So if you're going to say, hey, that's the bottom, I'm going to pretend like this. I think I can take that off. Just a little light tack. Okay, so you'll take your cap. You'll have adhesive on both the surface of the cap and the back surface of your satin. And once you place your image, and again, this one is a little bit bigger, so I'm going to cut this down for him because I believe his is a 9x9. But you may want to just go ahead and give your customers the 9.5 by 9.5, because one thing you don't want to do is fall short if you can avoid it. So I would make sure that I'm pressing down, giving it pressure now, because I've sprayed both surfaces, right? So I'll give it a good pressure, even pressing down in the center. And you can also take a stack of books, all those books that you finished for the semester, the reason why you're graduating. Go ahead and take something to cover, so you're not getting anything messy on there. Put a piece of paper or something down, and take some books and add some weight to it, so that by the time you pick this up, it would have had good adhesion. I would say give it about an hour. It'll have good adhesion, and it'll have a good even application. So you don't have to worry about any bubbling or shifting or anything. That's one of the other reasons why I like using the cardstock versus the paper. So I would do the same thing with the glitter. As a matter of fact, it has a paper backing. Paper is, you just saw how hard it was for me to peel it off of that liner. So I would spray the surface of the hat. Of course, not right in my face. 2 coats, 6 to 8 inches away. And then I would spray the surface or the back surface of my image that way. Let me demonstrate how I would do it. Don't let the surfaces touch yet. Put the image face down, back up, and then you would take your cap. And I always play with a corner first. So this one is right on as far as the size goes. And once I get one corner lined up, I can see my other corners. And before I actually start pushing down, I'm going to make sure that I'm lined up. You can usually tell by one of your edges here. If you have 2 adjacent edges all the way around and they look good, then more than likely you're good to go. Then you'll be able to pick it up and you would have it adhered. So that's 3 different techniques, or at least 3 different textures that you can get out of this. Like I said, these are above and beyond. You can always go with a printed cardstock or even a printed photo paper. That would work too. And I've seen people selling those for $25 just as cardstock. So you can definitely charge a little bit more for these because there's more processing time and it has a better feel to it. This will last a lot longer than the paper will. So more than likely, if you're sublimating on fabric, it's going to have a higher end look and feel to it the suede, the glitter, and the satin, you know, all three of those have a enhanced texture to them. So it's not going to be like a paper topper, and you'll be able to show that in your listing, show that to your customers, create a few samples so they can get an idea that yours is going to be premium as opposed to some of the other paper ones that are out there. So while I was talking, I think I've got my heat up. So let's do the Sublimation and adhere it. I'm ready. And I may, if I were to, I would do this design over again and design it on the diagonal, because I think I like it to where the bottom, so this is the front of the cap, this is the head, so this is the face, front of the cap, and then this will be the back of the cap. I think I like to have the name going diagonal from here to here, and then the images shifted that way. So if I were to redo this, I probably would do it on the diagonal. But it depends on what your customer wants. And within the template, there is a diagonal, or doing the cap on the bias so that you get kind of a diamond frame rather than a square frame. And I see that my iron is still on red, meaning it's still heating up, I believe. I'm gonna go for it and start trying to tack it down in at least one location. To make sure I'm good all the way around. Put firm pressure on one location. And I don't have steam or anything like that on. So I'm just putting a little pressure down here in this corner, because if I can get one corner to set, then I can get the rest of it to set. And usually about 10 to 12 seconds in the location. Give you a tack, and I have a good tack there. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want to slide the iron across, because you can get your image to shift that way. So you want to pick it up and let it heat for, let's say, 10 seconds. Then I can pick it up, because I'm going to do another session. I just want to go ahead and get it tacked. Because I'm going to make sure that I put a good even amount of pressure and heat around this thing. And it's kind of hard, because there is material in the middle where the crown of the cap is, so you can feel that it's heating uneven, but we're going to be able to tell in just a little bit once we pull this parchment paper off. And it looks like I'm sliding it, and I am sliding it, but I'm picking the iron up and kind of shifting it. I'm not just like, you know, how you would iron a pair of pants and you're pushing it as you're shifting it. I'm not pushing it when I'm shifting it. And if you did happen to push it and shift it, then if it did move, that means that you have an opportunity probably to fix it. But I just wouldn't want you to take that chance. And like I said, we just heated this up at 400 degrees for 60 seconds, so I'm not really so concerned about overheating it, or, you know, overdoing it by leaving the iron too long. But I do want to be aware that this has already been pressed once, so I don't want to potentially pick up any color by heating it again. Okay, let's see what we have here. And it is fully adhered. And I might have wanted to use a little less heat. So what I'm going to do while this is cooling, while this is cooling, I would put some books or something on top of it, because you want it to be flat as it cools, because that paper that's inside can warp a little bit. It's basically, these are made with paper and a little bit of fabric covering. So since I don't have any books laying around, I'm just gonna add a little of my arm weight, and that would be it. So I want to show y'all that final result there. That parchment paper could be reused, especially if you're doing a lot of these, which I can see you guys probably doing a lot of these. there aren't a lot of people doing this right now other than the paper printed ones. So it's definitely an opportunity to do something different, do something unique, and stand out from your competition, as well as impress your current clients. And that's my little hot glue that came off of that thing that I picked off. And the funny thing is, the button was not sewn to the top of the hat. The button was actually sewn. Well, it wasn't even sewn. It was like had a piece of thread, and it was threaded into the hot glue, and then they would hot glue it to the cap. That's the level of construction and quality of construction for that one. All right, so I'm gonna call that done. See what we're working with. And just so y'all know, these are not needles. I ain't over here doing nothing illegal. These are little Innate Lab pens. I use them to get attention, and they're marketed with our logo and stuff. So every time I go out with one, like in my hair, or we have them on the table when we do events, folks are always asking about them. So do something to get folks' attention, and this is one of those products that's definitely going to get attention. All right, so we have our hat here, our cap. It is fused all the way around. It's good. I probably may have wanted to use a little bit less heat because I went ahead, I got impatient, I put it on the highest setting. So you want it on polyester. I had it on cotton because I was trying to be quick. But yeah, so keep it on polyester, so then that way you don't get any of the, what happens is, depending on how these are sewn and the quality of the fabric that's used, the fabric may start to basically wave a little bit. So in that case, still legible, still looks good. And then you would have your tassel that you put on there. You would have a button there that you didn't remove because you were being bothered by the placement of it. There's your button. And then almost that size, that 0.75, fits perfectly around the button without looking like there's a big gaping hole in the middle of your design. So that works for that. So I'm going to show you the options up close, hopefully. Let's see, here we go. So there we have the suede look. And I wish I had a little bit better lighting over here to show you that. Then next we have, let's put the glitter on top. Let me show you that option. And of course, this is one that you would tack down with adhesive. Now you could, I have done this before, put glitter onto a Teflon sheet and sublimated it and then pulled it off that Teflon sheet. You can misshape it a little bit, but that's why I say go ahead and put it on a paper backing or a cardstock backing. And then this is the cardstock with the satin fabric on it. I like the cardstock just in general because it's going to give you some rigidity that the hat itself doesn't even have. This is a very inexpensive hat. It has like wrinkles in it and it curls up. So if you were to add that cardstock, it makes it look crisp, clean, flat, and it has a nice little sheen to it. So those are your three options that I have there. Option number 4, which is probably your go-to, is to just pigment, regular pigment ink, print onto cardstock and just offer that to your customers as the baseline. And then you could, you know, offer these other materials because you're not so certain that these materials are always going to be available. And especially when everybody else is trying to get them at the same time, it can be a little difficult. So that's it for the caps. I'm going to go ahead and post this one because you had the most, I'm just talking without y'all seeing me. So this is what I had the most questions about, the caps. So this should answer those questions, and then I'll go ahead and press the, I have the stole, of course, which is the main feature item, and then I have a fan and socks because folks said that the kids were liking socks for their graduation. So I'm going to show you how to do the taco method so that you can make sure that the image lines up from the left to right sock, and it's really simple. You don't have to worry about which way you were supposed to flip a sock to get the continuing images, all that good stuff. So I will upload those as separate videos as well. So I will see you all in just a bit. Hang tight, and hopefully this keeps you entertained for a little bit and has you working tomorrow on this Monday coming up. All right, guys, catch you in a bit.